Alright, in this video I'll be demoing how to use indirect function in Excel. And as you can see here is a made-up table, chart of the companies Apple, Dell, and Toshiba and the number of computers they sold in any given month of the year. And the goal is to take the two inputs of the month and company and have Excel spit out the number of computers each company sold that month, or the chosen company sold that month. And the way we'll be doing that is using the indirect function. So the first thing we'll need to do is highlight this chart and hit Control-Shift F3. Here will pop up and you'll be able to choose which names you want to create. So you'll pick top row, left column. And what this does is it takes this entire column and names it Apple. This one's named Dell. And this row here is named March, and you can test any row and column you'll see it matches up with the name. And the next thing you'll want to do is create a data validation box. Here you'll want to create the drop down list to be the months, which you'll do right there. And in this box you'll want to create the data validation drop down list of the companies. And now here you can see there's a list of the companies and the months. So now you'll want here to output the number of companies, the number of computers this specific company sold in this specific month. And the way you'll be doing that is using the indirect function. And what the indirect function does is it takes the text that you choose as an input and converts it into the name range that you defined earlier. So here you'll hit equals indirect and choose the month space indirect of the company. Parentheses. And here you'll see that Dell in May sold 516 companies, which matches up with the chart. And as I said before, what that indirect function is doing is taking the inputted name and outputting the returned range that is defined to that name. So what it's doing here is taking Dell and outputting this entire range, which is defined as Dell, and it's taking May and outputting this range. And what it's doing is finding the intersection between Dell and May. So the intersection ends up being 516, which is why it outputs 516. And then you can change the month for how many computers Dell sold in August. You'll see it's 340, which still matches up. Now the really cool thing about the indirect function is it allows you to create a data validation box that is dependent on another data validation drop-down box. So instead of creating a data validation with all 9 of these cities, to make it a little more user-friendly, you can make a data validation box listing the 3 states, and then based on the state that you choose, the 3 cities will pop up that are within that state. So first we'll create this first data validation box listing the 3 states, so California, Texas, and New York. And here you see the 3 states. Now what I want to do here is when I pick California, I want these 3 cities within California to pop up. And here you can see when I highlight these, I can change the name by clicking here and typing in California, which I already did with all these other cities. So these 3 cities are named Texas, and this range of 3 cities is named New York. So now to create this drop-down box that will be dependent on the state that I choose, I go to data validation, list, and in source I hit equals indirect of this box, the box with the state. And now you can see the 3 cities pop up that were within that state. And to once again to link it to the cost of living, I do indirect of the city, and here it pops up too, which is exactly like the example I showed you before. And as you can see, as I change the city, the cost of living also changes. Change the state, cities changes the cost of living. And one thing I want to remind you is that to have this cost of living output, you still need to name these cost of livings over here the city that it's linked with. So this 5 needs to be named Dallas for this indirect function to work. This 7 needs to be named New York City for it to be able to work.